Good morning, candidates. Today we're going to be looking at grade 12 accounting paper that was written in November 2021. And we're going to be looking at cost and management accounting. Question 2 that was written in November 2021. I'm of the view that you already have this question paper, and I'm of the view that you attempted this question before. Maybe there is areas where you're still confused, and let's take corrective action. And look at question 2 is about cost accounting. We're going to be looking at question 2, cost accounting, 45 marks and 35 minutes. And that alone tells you that you just have to, while you are defensive, you just have to attack. Because remember, at this stage, you would have written paper 1 and you would have attacked on paper 1, and there's maximum marks that you collected there are on your back already. Now you're looking at paper 2, you want to be defensive while you also attack. So there will be a lot of free marks in terms of this 45 marks, 35 minutes, which is very limited. That time is very limited, and it requires that you just copy and paste what is there. And look at question 2, cost accounting, Prudi manufacturers. The information relates to the financial year ended 28 February 2021. The business produces one style of traveling bag. The owner is Prudi Sitole. Require complete the following for the year ended 28 Feb 2021, production cost statement, and as well as abridged statement of comprehensive income. So you are given the information there about finished goods, stock. There is no work in progress at the end or beginning of the year. Raw materials issued for production was 1494 million. So this information is given to you and is the same concept that you were using for financial statements. It doesn't change. It doesn't mean because it's cost and management accounting, therefore the principle changes. The principles stays the same, and if you know the principles, if you know your format, you will still collect and defend your maximum marks when you do these kinds of questions. Cost production statement, 10 marks. Now let's go to our answer sheet. The answer sheet will be given like this. This is how it looks like. Even if you can check on your memorandum, the answer sheet looks like this. But even though the answer sheet is given like this, you must know that it's direct material cost. You must know that even that is not given is direct labor. Such things, those are the things that you must take advantage of, and you must know, and you must defend. So it's about defending here. It's about defending your marks while you attack by getting more marks and guaranteeing yourself that you pass the exam. So mine, to be part of this, I'm happy, and I'm doing this for free so that I reduce pressure on you, so that I reduce stress on you, and you are able to write exam and able to enjoy the holidays and be confident throughout, and that is exactly what we are doing here. So direct labor, let's look at the question itself. What the question says is stock balance is finished goods 96,000, opening stock, closing stock. There is no work in progress at the beginning or end of the year. Raw materials issued to the factory for production. So the first thing they were asking was production cost statement. Direct material is already recorded, and direct material is the same amount of that 1494 million and is already recorded. Let's look at the production wages, because the next item is direct labor. And what about the direct labor? Information extracted from the production wage records. Net wage paid to production workers, 647,400. Total deduction, 22% of gross wages. So it's about calculation now, 22% of gross wages. How do you get this amount? Is 647,400. 647,400 multiplied by 100 divide by, and we did this concept. You just have to go back and revise where I said it's 100 minus that percentage that is given, which is 22, and at the end of the day you will get this amount, and it's simple as that. So this is your calculator. You say 647,400 multiplied by 100 divide by 78, which is 830,000. 830,000. Direct material, direct labor, these are all costs, and you add them together. You defend marks. You add them together so that everything is formal and done. You don't have time to waste. Factory overhead cost. You are given 520, 520,280. You look at what is on the question about the next item, which is D. The bookkeeper calculated the following costs for the year ended 28 Feb 2021. Factory overhead cost, which is what is required, and 520,280 is already recorded on our behalf. And selling and administration costs together with administration costs are part of abridged statement of comprehensive income. So the only thing we're going to entertain here is factory overhead, and let's look at what the adjustments has to say about this. It was discovered that she did not take the following into account. The telephone account of 22,400 was posted in error to the factory overhead cost. This expense relate to the office in error. Therefore, this amount must be definitely be subtracted from this 520,800. Subtract the amount of 22,400. Now, what else comes here? The entire amount, let's take it on top. The entire amount of rent expense, 98,400, was posted to factory overhead cost. Okay, it's fine. It's posted to factory overhead cost. That must be done. It's okay. We were okay with that. Now, this expense should have been split in the ratio 7:2:1 between the factory, sales, and administrative, or rather administration departments. Therefore, this 98,400 is correct, that is recorded on the factory overheads. However, for sales and administration, which does not form part of factory overhead, and that ratio of such should be subtracted. You look at the factory is 7. You look at the sales is 2. You look at the admin is 1. Therefore, to get the denominator, because these are numerators, to get the denominator here is 2 plus 7 plus 2 plus 1, which is going to be 10. And 3 over 10, which is for sales and administration, should be subtracted. Now, 98,400, let's put it here, minus, let me put a bracket here just to indicate this transaction alone, which is 98,400 multiplied by 3 divided by 10. That is the amount that you must subtract there. 98,400 multiplied by 3 divided by 10. 29,520 equals to 29,520. 29,520 must be subtracted as well. Let's look at the last adjustment. I will post this solution on the link and description below, so you will look at the calculations, how we did calculations, because I will put them there underneath. It's just that for the sake of time and the sake of inconvenience, and for the sake of getting maximum marks, and for the sake of making sure that we don't deviate from what we're doing here, the insurance expense of 26,400 was divided equally between the factory overhead cost and the sales department in error. 60% of this expense relates to the factory, and the balance applies to the sales department. So 60% of this expense relate to the factory, which we're okay with that, and 40% must be deducted as such. And this 26,400 was posted in error and must be divided equally. Now, if this 26,400 was posted in error, alone without it being divided equally, we were going to divide it by 2 to correct the error, because we're correcting the error. So 26,400 was divided equally between the factory overhead cost and the sales department in error, which is two departments. Therefore, two departments. To correct this, we can't divide by 2. We must rather divide by 4. So that we correct that. To correct a single transaction error, you divide by 2. But this one is 2 transactions which went to 2 different departments. And now to correct that error is 26,400. If it was between 3 departments, it was going to be divided by 6. If it was single department, 2 departments, 4. So divide by 4 to correct this error. And when we correct this error, we get this amount of 6,600. However, 40% is the amount that must be inclusive to 640 plus 2640, because it relates to what was part of factory, and that 40% must be inclusive as such. So the whole amount of insurance expense was posted in error, and now that 40% also, because this 60% must be 60 plus 40% must be recorded on factory overhead. On that factory overhead, we already have 60%, therefore 40% must also form part. That is why it is a plus. And then we carry on by we're done with that. Because now when you look, it's the last adjustment. We're done with that. You add them together or subtract as such, which is 520, 280 minus 22, 400 minus 29, 520 plus 2640, which gives us 471,000. And when you get that 471,000, now you add them together, because all of them are costs. Therefore, this is because this becomes a problem for students. They easily forget all of them are costs. Therefore, you must add them together. Therefore, you have your cost of production. Therefore, what happens now? You go to the next question, which is about abridged statement of comprehensive income. And you go back, you look at your question. You're like, okay, statement of abridged income. In E, I'm giving the sales figure, and the sales figure is already recorded. What are my cost of sales? The same principles doesn't change. Where it's opening stock, you add purchases less closing stock. You use such principles again to get your cost of sales. And when you look at your cost of sales, now remember the first thing they gave us, cost of finished goods, and the cost of finished goods is 72,000 plus cost of production, which is in this case is 2795 million, minus closing inventory, which is 96,000, which is closing cost of finished goods. Now you have your cost of sales. How much are your cost of sales? Is 72,000 plus the amount you got, 2795 million, minus 96,000, and you're happy with 2771 million. 2771 million. And what is my gross profit? Sales less cost of sales is equals to gross profit. You can use your calculator to do that. Less cost of sales is equals to gross profit. Now, other expenses, and the examiners are giving you clues, are giving you free marks by indicating here what you need to do. They already recorded selling and administrative costs on your behalf. They already recorded administrative cost. And now you look at the question, what is my question if they record that? Is we go back again to these adjustments, because remember, this was done. Firstly, it was discovered that she did not take the following into account. And then you look at the first adjustment, where it says the telephone account of 22,400 was posted in error to the factory overhead cost, an amount of 22,400. This expense relate to the office. And if this expense relate to the office, what does it tell you? It tell you that this is an administrative expense, and it should be plus with administrative expense. Where's our administrative expense? Here's our administrative expense plus so much so, which we just got, which is 22,400. You happy with that? The entire amount of rent expense, 98,400, was posted to the factory overhead cost. This expense should have been split into the ratio 7:2:1 between the factory, sales, and administrative department. We have sales and administrative department. That same amount of 98,400, because you want to split it now. When you split it, you look at the sales department, because you want to include your sales department under selling and administration. So what is my sales? My sales is 2 divided by, because administration already is there with that ratio of 1, but sales is 2/10. So that sales of 2/10 multiplied by 2 divided by 10, which is 19,680, must also be included on the selling and administration, which is how much? 19,680. 19,680. You happy with that? And then we also look at the one for sales and administration. That's what I wanted to do. Administration plus, what was administration? Was that 96,400 divided by times 1 divided by 10, and it's 9,840 times 1 divided by 10. And when you look at the selling and and distribution cost, selling and distribution cost is that there is also that selling and distribution cost that we added there. We must exclude here 2,640, because is that 40%, which does not form part of that. So when you get these, now your totals, you just do your totals as quick as you can, and your totals is minus 2,640 plus, you can use your calculator when you get to these steps so that it becomes easy for you. 242,000, and then the last one, using your calculator again, 187,760 plus 22,400 plus 9,840 and 220,000. Now what happens? What is our net profit? Is equals to the value of other expenses, the total, which is equals to, you use your calculator, you add this plus this amount, and then you get your total, and the value of net profit is equals to gross profit minus expenses, and then this is what is going to happen, 1.2 million. And then you are happy with 2.1.2. What is my question next? 2.2.2. Calculate the total cost of fabric lost and wasted. There was fabric lost and wasted. So when you look at that, is 2.2.2, and we need to start this question where it starts. And when you look at question, and it's independent from this one of 2.1. 2.2 is about control of raw material and is independent from that question. So we're done with question 2.1. After completing the statement in question 2.1, or rather the statements in question 2.1, the internal auditor of Purdue Manufacturers suspects that the raw material is not being controlled well in the storeroom and the factory. Calculate the meters of fabric missing from the storeroom, the meters of fabric wasted in the factory. Apart from installing cameras, provide a specific strategy to improve internal control in the storeroom and factory. In each case, provide a different point. Area of weaknesses, corrective actions should be taken. Imagine at school, there are textbooks that get missing at the storeroom. That means controls are very, very weak, and safety and control measures should be taken. So when you questions of this nature, they ask them, think about if something is lost and you are the one who must safeguard that thing. What are you going to be doing to make sure that that thing doesn't get lost? So those are the questions. And you should take those free marks. While defending, you should attack by taking those free marks. Whatever you mention that has to do with control, that has to do with safeguarding controls, is a correct mark. So calculate the missing meters. We are talking about meters in question 1. We are calculating missing meters. And what is the specific strategy to improve internal control in the storeroom and factory? Those are the questions that they are asking. Now, you look at the raw material issued to factory, balance, and when you deal with this, what must come into mind is always that fact that I always said to you. When you deal with stock, it's always opening stock, add purchases less closing stock. Such principles that you were using in paper 1, you don't stop them. You carry on by defending your marks. So when you answer question 2.1, you look at 2.1 because 2.1 is does not form part of here. It's here. Calculate missing from the storeroom, and everything is written for you. You can see missing from the storeroom. What? Calculate the fabric missing. And when you calculate fabric missing, what must come into mind is this concept of opening stock, add purchases, less closing stock. And what is our opening stock in this case? Of meters, of course, which is 2,700 meters. Put it like this, 2,700 meters, because the space I think is enough, plus purchases. What is our purchases during the year? 10,800 meters was purchased, but at the same time, raw materials issued to the factory was 12,450. And then that's when we're going to minus our closing stock, which is 850. Closing stock of what? Of fabric. And when you do that, you can clearly see that what is my amount now is going to be 2,700 plus 10,800. You use your calculator quickly because you don't have time. Minus 12,450 minus 850. And then the value that you get, which is 200, is your solution. That's what they are looking for in terms of this. It is 200, or rather here, internal control strategy. 200, 200, let's put it like this, equals to 200 meters. Now, let me not use capital letters. Now, in terms of safeguarding, rotation, segregation of duties, segregation of duties, or rather you can say rotation of personnel. Whatever you mention that has to do with safeguarding the storeroom, you must put controls in place, and they're gonna give you 2 marks if you mention these 2 points, be it that you also mention improve security. And physical control, using, what can you say there? Using detailed recording of fabric coming in or going out. Whatever point you mention there that has to do with safeguarding, it's a mark. And what is the value of wasted fabric wasted in the factory? There was the missing from the storeroom. This was missing. And if it was missing, exactly as I'm saying, that controls should be in place to make sure that everything doesn't undermine the work. 200 meters is so much to just get lost out of that. Even if it was your business, imagine you lose so much meters, and you buy those meters. We will see as we go on. And then what is the wasted in the factory? Now we look at the factory. Factory meters was 12,450. 12,450 meters. And then minus how much was produced. Production is 7,800. It takes, let's read additional information. Fabric is purchased at a fixed cost price of 120 per meter. It takes 1.5 meters of fabric to make one travel bag. 7,800 bags were produced during the financial year. So you read that information, you're happy, and you're like, okay, how do they calculate the wasted? Is 7,800 bags are produced, and it takes 1.5 meter to produce each travel bag. Now 7,800 multiplied by 1.5. 7,800 multiplied by 1.5, which is equals to, so that we see exactly how much meters was actually lost or wasted. It's a waste production, and 1.5 multiplied by 7,800, which is equals to 11,700. 11,700. Now minus 11,700 out of that 12,450, and then we will see that this is equals to, use your calculator, minus 12,450, because you don't have time. 750 meters. Hey, no. Okay. 750. Okay, let's remove this equal sign because it's the one that is giving us problem. Now the system. Now you check. There was waste of 750 meters. Just waste. There's meters. There's fabric that is being bought, and 750 meters of this fabric is just being lost. Now we must improve training. There must be training that is going to take place here, and using something like cutting. There are offcuts of this fabric. Maybe they misuse too much offcuts of this, of this fabric. But let's improve training. That is the mark. Let's improve supervision. let's say rather effective use of cuts. And any other point that you may think of, it's a mark, it's a full mark. They can't, because they are expecting 2 to 3 arguments, or even one argument, but it must be the strong argument. Let's look at the next question. Is calculate the total cost of fabric lost and wasted and explain how this loss should be shown. The cost of fabric lost, remember, there are two things here. 200 meters was lost. 750 meters was also lost. So 200 plus, and that question is 2.2.2. And when you look at here is 2.2.2, where I have 200 meter plus 750 meter, and both multiplied by the price. How much is the price? How much is the price per meter? We are told 120 per meter. You use your calculator without a waste of time, which is 950 multiplied by 120. That 950 multiplied by 120 is equals to 114,000. And what happened to the calculated cost of fabric? Explain this. Explain how this loss should be shown in the statement mentioned in 2.1. This loss should be shown in the statement of comprehensive income and be shown under expenses. That's it. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be difficult. You just defend while you attack. That's all you need here. Defend while you attack. And now we are looking at 2.3. And 2.3 is also independent from 2.2. Now we are looking at Rosemary Toy Factory 2.3. And 2.3 is also independent. Rosemary Toy Factory. This factory manufactures toy teddy bears. There is no work in progress stock at the beginning or at end of year. The financial year ends on 31 December. Rosemary decided to address the problem of low profits made in 2020 by making some changes to improve sales and production. Required. Provide a calculation to confirm that the break-even point for the 2021 financial year is correct. Explain why Rosemary is pleased with the production level, sales, and break-even point. Quote figures. Explain to Rosemary why the fixed cost per unit decreased from 56 Rand to 45 Rand 71. Rosemary made deliberate decisions regarding variable costs to improve the business. Explain the decisions that she might have taken on these costs and how this could have had positive effects on the quote figures. Quote figures. Just to quote a figure relevant to what is the examiner is asking candidates, you get your free marks. Please don't forget to quote figures. The examiner is giving you clues. Quote figures. That's it. And you look at now the question. The first question was calculate the break-even point. 2.3.1 provide a calculation to confirm that the break-even point for the, and then now when you do break-even point is equals to fixed costs that you must know, divide by marginal income per unit, of which we can say divide by gross profit per unit. Right. And then what is our fixed cost? Our fixed cost in this case is equals to, you look at your fixed cost, 224,000. It's given. It's given. 224,000 divided by, what is our variable, what is our price, selling price per unit is 225,000, because we are talking about gross profit, is 225 the price minus, what is our variable costs, sales less variable costs. Here is the sales less variable costs, 192. And then now you have that calculation of fixed costs over gross profit percentage. This is sales per unit minus marginal income per unit. This is that 224 over these units, and then when you calculate, it's going to be 225 minus 192, and to get that denominator is going to be 33. So 224,000 divided by 33, and then you get your 255 minus 92. 255, not 225. 255. 255, because if the amount gives like this, it's an indication that that amount could be wrong. So that is why it was a misstatement, human error. It happens, and sometimes they give marks for such human error, and sometimes you lose valuable marks for such human error. So just be careful. And again, when you get to this stage, you become exhausted. Don't. Just take a deep breath. Take a deep breath, breathe slowly, and ask your mind to work with you, because remember, this is your last exam of 2020. This would be your last high school exam of accounting. So make sure that you ask your mind to work with you. So 224,000 divided by 63, which is what we just calculated now, which is 3556. 3556. And then you check what was the provide a calculation to confirm that the break-even point for 2021 is correct. Now you go and look at the break-even point given is 3556, and the confirmation is that we just got 3556. That means that break-even point is correct, and that's how you calculate it. And then explain why Rosemary is pleased with the production level, sales, and break-even point. Quote figures. We look at what was produced. That's the first thing. We look at what was produced, and then you say, okay, she produced and sold, produced and sold how many units? 1, 3, 4 units, and that was above break-even point. That was above break-even point. That's what she sold for this, produced and sold. How did I get this 1, 3, 4? It becomes very simple, because what you look at the units produced and sold. And when you look at units produced and sold, you minus what was broke even, which is 3556. The difference between the two will give you that amount. Let's write these amounts here for the sake of what we're doing. I will say sales. Okay, let's leave this for now. But rather quote the amounts to say 4,900 minus what was given there, 3556, as what broke even, which is equals to, so that you see for yourself on the calculator. I don't want you to say no, but he didn't get that amount. We get every amount that we're calculating here, which is 1344, which is 1344. And when you look at that, she made a profit Let's write that down. She made a profit of, and that profit of 1344, you must mention it, and let's compare compared to last year. Or last year, what was the profit last year? We look at that also to say 4,000 units minus 3,500, and last year it was 500. Compared to last year, 500. How was that 500 you got? Was 4,000 units minus 3,500 units. And you're happy with that because you explained first the production levels of this. And you check again, how much was my profit here in this year? It says less variable costs is equals to gross profit. Now, what is our gross profit? You check now, 255 minus 192. 255 minus 192. Hence, we did that. 255 minus 192. You happy with that? But let's look at last year, because this year is 255. Last year was 240 minus 176. That was last year. 240 minus 176. And the examiner becomes happy if you show them these kind of calculations to say, okay, 255 minus 192, we did calculate that, but we can repeat it. 192 for the sake of inconvenience, which is 63. And you look at this subsequent year, which was last year, was 240 minus 176, which is 64. Now, in terms of profit standards multiplied by, 1344, which is that what we produced, and compared to last year, which is multiplied by 500. And you can exactly see from this calculation that which is equals to, sorry for that, let's look at this calculation. 63 times 1344, which is equals to 84 672. But when you check last year, it was equals to 500 times 64. You just want to make sure that you take maximum max 32,000. And when you take this 84, let's say 84, 673 minus the last year amount, which was 32,000, which is equals to, you do that so that you get maximum, and don't get exhausted. Just play along. 52,666, which is 52,673. Now, you mentioned to the examiners to say a profit was, you mentioned that because that is a free mark, but profit was 52, profit was 84, 673 compared to last year 32,000 and an increase of 52,673 was obtained. And you're happy with that because you are mentioning to the examiners, you are mentioning figures, you are quoting, and I believe, I know so, maximum marks will be given if you mention like this, because now you spoke about the production level, you spoke about the sales, and you spoke about break-even point. Let's look at the sales individually and also ensure that you take that last maximum marks of revenue. Let's check revenue, or rather sales. What happened to sales? Let's look at the sales. Sales is 255 times 490 units. Sales is 240 times 4,000 units. And you can see that. Let's speak about sales here. Sales. And sales for this year is 255 multiplied by how many units were produced and sold was 4,900 equals to 4,900 multiplied by 255, which is equal to 1,249,500. Let's check what happened last year, again in terms of sales. In terms of sales last year, it was not 255, but rather it was 240 multiplied by 4,000. 240 multiplied by 4,000, which is equals to, and now you want to be quick, multiply it by 240, which is 960,000. Now you check the difference again. And you mentioned that. You just mentioned that revenue from sales increased from, and those amounts were not mentioned, from 960,000 to quote amounts 1,495, 1,249,500. You happy, and you get your maximum marks. And any other point or any other thing that you can mention, such as break-even point, to mention that it increased from 3.5 to 3,556. Those are the things that the examiners are expecting you to mention, even if I don't mention that point, but I'm gonna get to maximum marks because I'm trying to be as open as I can with you. So let's look at the next question, which is 2.3.3. 2.3.3 is asking, explain to Rosemary why the fixed cost per unit decreased from 56 Rand to 45 Rand 71. Let's look at that, and we mention why it was decreased. As the level of fixed cost decreases, the level of production increases. Have you noticed that? Go and check that and see how whether or not level of production is not increasing, and you can see on the question itself, when you compare, that was done, 56 is less, but the production is increasing. That's it. And that is why they are giving you 2 marks for that. We carry on, we don't waste time. And any other point that you may think of. 2.3.3, is there any other question? 2.3.4, Rosemary made deliberate decisions regarding variable costs to improve the business. Explain the decision that she might have taken on these costs and how this could have had positive effects on the business. I like this question. They are speaking about variable costs. We all know that variable cost is direct material, direct labor, variable overheads. And let's look at the answer sheet. How is the answer sheet looking like? 2.4. Rosemary made deliberate decisions regarding variable costs to improve the business. Explain the decision that she might have taken on these costs and how this could have had positive effects on the business. There was positive effects on this business because remember, she took a decision when she saw that last year she did not make any kind of good profit, and she decided to make decisions, deliberate decisions. And when you check and when we analyzed on that previous question, you can see there was a lot of improvement that took place. And let's look at direct material in particular, direct labor and selling and administration costs. And even if they did not show you this, and because they're asking about variable costs, you must know that variable costs include these items. And if they want you to comment, you need to look into direct material cost alone, because comparative figures are given. And we look at the prices per unit, per cost. Now, direct material, 100, 2021, 80, 2020. What happened? Didn't it increase? It increased. By how much? By 20. That's what you mentioned, because in terms of increased from, here it is. You just mentioned that nicely. Okay. Increased from 80 last year to 100 this year per unit. Let's put it in terms of rands so that everybody sees that we are dealing with rands per unit. And you if you like, you can even mention a percentage to say it increased by how much percent. Is 20 divided by 80, sorry for that, which is 25% if you like. So sometimes you can just write that 25%, it increased from this amount to this amount. And why now there is this increase all of a sudden, and there is overwhelming support for this. And remember, they made a profit, they broke even, and they made a profit. I don't want to talk too much. Now let's see. One other reason that these guys did, improved quality. That's what they did. They improve quality, or they have better quality. And if you mention like this, they will give you maximum marks. And that's what they want to see from you, if you can be able to demonstrate. So that increase, obviously, improved quality, better quality. There's also something called customer satisfaction. Customer satisfaction. So customers are satisfied because at the end of the day, these guys managed to increase production costs while keeping down the fixed costs, So we are happy with that. Let's look at the labor now. What happened to the labor? Direct labor, 56 Rand 2021, 72 Rand 2020, decreased. And to mention that, just to mention, it's a mark. It's a free mark to say decrease from 72 Rand to 56 Rand per unit. That's it. And if now labor cost decreased, it tells us that they are avoiding overtime. It tells us that they are improving efficiency through training. Efficiency is improved. Efficiency and effectiveness is improved. And I also mentioned that they are avoiding overtime. Normal hours are managed well. No overtime. Just to mention that overtime, it's also a mark. And you may also think of other answer or any other reason to say maybe the use of machines, technology, also improves their level of production, and it also they cut costs. Those are the things those are the reasons that you must mention. And again, they speak of selling and distribution cost. And that selling and distribution cost, you check again, what happened to selling and distribution cost? The price is 36 rand. Last year was 24. It increased. And you just write that increased, so that you don't lose these marks. These marks are for free. 24 rand to what? To 36 rand. To 36 rand per unit. Or you can use that method to show in terms of percentage, because I told you that you can show them in terms of percentage. You say, okay, 24, 36. You say 36 minus 24 equals to divide by 24. And then we check 50%. You can mention that if you like. It's up to you. And if you mention percentages, they just say A plus. Provided you were attacking in first paper, and provided in this paper you were kept on attacking while defending. Okay, let me also show you that one quickly, because we also calculated that one, but we didn't show in terms of calculations. Minus 56 is equals to divide by 72 this year, which is 22%. So you calculate with that subsequent year, 22.2%. We're happy with that. Now let's carry on with that, because I wanted us to finish that one so that you understand these percentages, and make sure that you rehearse, you practice, and if you practice and more practice, everything will be fine. Selling and administration cost increased from 26 rand to increased from 24 to 36. What drives that? Because now they are making more profit, and something drives that. It can be advertising that drives that. They spend more on advertising. Actually, we should mention that more advertising increase the sales rather. And maybe teddy bears, guys, maybe there are delivery maybe takes place within a certain time frame, which is very quick. If you buy online, within a day your teddy bear is delivered. Those are the things you should mention. And maybe there are commission to motivate sales people. So those are things that you must mention when you answer such questions. Don't forget to make sure that you take a deep breath when you answer such question, and don't feel exhausted. These are the areas where you take control of yourself, where you take full maximum marks, and when you are left with few minutes to have written your last paper of high school. Best wishes with your exams, and see you in the next tutorial.